With my 35 years of experience, our team at US Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call US Asset Management today and let's get to work in your financial future.
The left is siding with illegals, attacking ICE, and fighting to let non-citizens vote. Republican Kelvin King is a graduate of the Air Force Academy, Air Force veteran, and conservative businessman. As Georgia's Secretary of State, Kelvin will put Americans first, root out corruption, clean up voter rolls, and restore confidence in our elections. The other candidates had their chance and failed. Republican Kelvin King for Secretary of State, leadership Georgia voters can trust.
Pro-Trump warrior Steve Gooch won't just cut property taxes in Georgia. He'll throw them straight in the wood chipper.
Senior citizens on fixed income shouldn't be forced from their homes. Neither should veterans who have served our country and fought for our freedoms. And neither should anyone else for that matter. Frankly, these crazy property taxes are un-American. I'll tear them to shreds. We'll make home ownership great again.
Steve Gooch for Lieutenant Governor. Toughest tax cutter Georgia's ever seen.
Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with US Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call US Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
All right, folks, we are back. I'm your host, BKP. Remember, I told you that's what I'm going to start doing, like we're back, and we're going to take a brief, short break. That's how we're going to close. All right, folks, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. You're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. I've put out a couple Substack. By the way, they tell me that if you'll scan that QR code, easy out there. I know just the thought of hearing QR code. But they tell me if you'll scan that QR code, you'll go right to our Substack page. And let me see. I want to see if that actually works. It'd be a fine time to find out, right? So let me see here. Give me just a second. Like so, if I go there like that. And wait a minute. Let's see if I can get this again. Hold on. Right to my Substack page. There we go. Okay, so sorry about that. I took a little time there that I should not have. Speaking of QR codes, now this section here, as you well know, we ended the 2026 Georgia legislative session under the Gold Dome without, an answer on SB 189 and removing the QR codes. The House, Georgia State House, passed SB 214, terrible piece of legislation that we let die on the floor. So let's see what number I have here. I want number right there. And tomorrow there is a special called State Election Board meeting. Tomorrow is the state. We're waiting to make the what if this happens, what will happen, until we see tomorrow the state election board notice of a special called meeting April 22nd, 2026 via Zoom. It'll be a virtual meeting. It will not be in person. The purpose of the meeting is to conduct official business of the board, including introduction of rule petitions. I think that's what it says. So tomorrow, a special called state election board meeting is happening. Now, Governor Brian Kemp, who has tried, let's see, here it is. Sorry about that. Governor Brian Kemp, who is trying to campaign with Derek Dooley for Senate, yesterday he was asked the question. Here it is. Derek Dooley can't even campaign for U.S. Senate with Brian Kemp. The lawyers are still digging into that. The lawyers are still digging into that. So we're working through that as we speak, and hopefully have more for you soon. While campaigning for U.S. Senate candidate Derek Dooley, I asked Governor Kemp about calling a special session on ballot counting issues. That would be the QR code that has yet to be a solution for removing it after July 1st by state law, SB 189. So Governor Kemp is letting some things play out right now. One of the governor's frustrations, as he said yesterday in an interview, I think with 11 Alive or WSB yesterday, with WSB, Governor Kemp said, it's first of all, it's frustrating that we don't realize first and foremost how secure our voting system is. And that was Governor Brian Kemp. So we'll wait till tomorrow to start working on that. Now, Banks County continues. I want to talk about the a couple things that I looked at here. Banks County continues to haunt, we'll call it haunt, the meeting that happened April 8th, right? Was it April 8th? In Banks County. And remember this right here. The AJC came out yesterday morning. I think it was yesterday morning. Don't count. President Donald Trump, don't count. And the AJC said, expect to hear this clip from Trump from 2 days ago, plenty of times from Jones supporters. So don't count. Expect to hear this clip from Trump from 2 days ago as plenty of times from Jones supporters. And this is what the AJC printed up. Just so you understand, campaign contributions after I won don't count, Trump told a cheering audience at a Turning Point USA rally in Phoenix over the weekend. That's the thing Jackson donated to Trump's rivals in the past and only gave $1 million to President in December. Jackson has said he was late to the Trump train, but nobody supports him more than I do now. He recently told the Banks County GOP that he discussed it with Trump at Mar-a-Lago in February. He's forgiven me for doing this. So I think if he has forgiven me, hopefully you can, Jackson said. So Um, I played this for you. I'm going to play it for you right now, one more time. Okay, just let me run this.
But after I won, people came up to me, "Sir, I'd like to make a major contribution to your campaign." And I said, "Listen, just so you understand, campaign contributions after I won don't count. Okay? They don't count."
That is the thing we've got to do, and government is supposed.
Campaign contributions after I won don't count. So, yesterday you have Jackson, and I want to go through this because let me make sure I'm correct here. Let me get in number 46 here, Integrity Act. So remember the mystery surrounding billionaire Rick Jackson and the outside group attacking Burt Jones just got a intriguing wrinkle. That was from the AJC yesterday. So I went on a little deep dive on this yesterday. Every single day there's a little more that Rick Jackson is up to something. I mean, when we were kids, you would look at something like this and you'd say, that person's up to something. He's up to something. And he's up to no good. Now, a lot of things happened in the Jackson campaign late November and December, right? A lot of things happened. And Jackson made sure that he had all the team in place, the Hollywood production team, his circle of people in place early on so that he could launch his campaign. And when he launched the campaign, remember, he did that at a time where he would have almost 3 months almost to himself to campaign against Burt Jones. And Jackson's the one that brought it, made it ugly, went after Burt Jones, everything. Okay? Now, we have the mystery group. So remember, there's an investigation right now. Okay? There's an investigation right now into who is Georgians for Integrity, this Delaware corporation. So, we have right here, yesterday, the Integrity Act, the mystery surrounding billionaire Rick Jackson and the outside group attacking Burt Jones just got another intriguing wrinkle. So, the same Ohio attorney. Now, this gets interesting because I took this and I ran with it yesterday. I read the articles. The same Ohio attorney who signed the incorporation paperwork for Georgians for Integrity, the anonymous dark money outfit that has poured roughly $19 million into attacks on the lieutenant governor, also filed documents creating Alabama Patients First. Okay? Now, we don't know how tied they are, But there's a reason why you look at Alabama patients first and Rick Jackson. It's not just a coincidence, okay? So if you read this, you look at this and you say, okay, so the same attorney filed or is possibly working as the registered agent, and that's usually, we don't have the documents, the corporate documents, to state that this person's a registered agent. The same Ohio attorney signed the corporate paperwork for Georgians for Truth and the anonymous dark money outfit that has poured roughly $19 million into attack ads on Lieutenant Governor also filed documents creating Alabama Patient First. Okay, same attorney signed two sets of documents. What do you have there? The Atlanta group financed negative ads against Blue Cross. Sorry about that. Correction. The Alabama group financed negative ads against Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama during a legal fight involving a Montgomery hospital operated by Jackson Healthcare firm. Now that's not quite accurate. Okay? Now Jackson Hospital is not the same as Jackson Healthcare. The Alabama group financed negative attacks against Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama during legal fight involving a Montgomery hospital operated by Jackson Hospital. I will get to the healthcare firm in a minute. The attorney Kimberly Land didn't return messages seeking comment about the group. Well, Kimberly Land did not return the AJC's messages, but she answered the phone for me yesterday. Okay? Kimberly Land answered the phone for me because there's a phone number, and I'll show you in a minute, which faces state ethics charges for violating Georgia lobbying and campaign finance laws. So Georgians for Integrity is facing state ethics charges for violating Georgia lobbying and campaign finance laws. So look, Kimberly Land answered the phone for me. Rick Jackson, this is their comment, okay? Jackson has continued to deny any role in the negative ad blitz, which commenced weeks before his surprise entry into the race for governor. Rick Jackson has nothing to do with Georgians for Integrity, said the campaign, and he's never heard of this lawyer. Says he's never heard of this lawyer. Okay, now they have plausible deniability. It happens all the time. As you can see here, here is an $8 million mystery triggers growing fight over dark money in Georgia politics. The shadow group battering Lieutenant Governor on the Georgia airwaves doesn't have a public face. It's a Delaware registration corporation. Now, so these ads, we're going to get to that in a minute. November 28th, 2025. So, hey, we have one or two things here. We have Jackson's campaign is totally lying, right? That it's possible. It's possible they're not telling the truth, right? I mean, we found the other day where there was a $750,000 and a $200,000 restitution fine for a Medicare scam that Jackson Healthcare was involved in, right? So, November 28th, 2025. You got to remember. So, if we're going to say if Jackson did Georgians for Integrity. He's getting ready to launch. So he uses December to just, if this is him, to go after Burt Jones, right, for January, his launch. He sets the stage for the launch if this is him. November 28, 2025, Georgians for Integrity, a Delaware corporation, 501c, launched its first television ad campaign against Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, who was running the 2026 Georgia gubernatorial primary. On that date, it was a statewide buy with an ad criticizing Jones for allegedly enriching himself in office, claims about self-dealing, and legislation benefiting family-linked projects. Now, if this was Jackson, or if this is Jackson, Georgians for Integrity, you see, you go after your opponent full throat before anybody knows who you are. You establish this negative in the whole month of December about your opponent. If that's the way this played out, you establish your negative about your opponent the whole entire time with no one to look back at. There's no one to look back at in December. Jackson hasn't announced. You don't even know Rick Jackson until he comes out with his sad, foster home story that he tells everywhere he goes, right? And we are very happy that he made it out of foster care. We're very happy that he's financially able to help other foster care organizations and help work on foster care. Very happy, but tired of the story, Rick. Tired of the story. We've heard your story, okay? Now, moving right along, you go after your opponent. There's no one to go back and research. There's no one there. So you take all these hits right up through Christmas, right up through football season, right up through college football season, boom, boom, boom. Then Rick Jackson launches his campaign. Coincidence, right? Now you start looking and you have someone to look at. And by the time people start looking at your Medicare scam that you're named in, and you received $1 billion and no big contracts from the state, you've already laid damage to your opponent. The group was incorporated in Delaware on November 24, 2025, just days earlier than launching the ads. Media tracking accounts explicitly called it their first TV ad spending with a confirmed start date of 11/28/2025. All right, so they ran all through Thanksgiving. Now, I just want to show you a couple quick ones here. You have on the screen, unless you pay them, you can't get any more information. But this is Georgians for Integrity Corporation, Inc., 11/24/25. There's a reason I'm showing you this here. Now let's go to Delaware-based dark money group, Alabama Patients First, unleashed TV digital attack on Blue Cross Blue Shield. Tell Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama put patients first. Apparently, in Alabama, there's a fight that Blue Cross Blue Shield does not pay or denies care or denies claims. Okay? A brand new out-of-state dark money group launched an attack on Blue Cross Blue Shield, of Alabama over the past weekend and has already invested $320,000 in negative television. All right. Now, this is in December of 2025. Here you go. This is the incorporation papers, and it was 12/11/2025. Now, you got to remember, Alabama Patients First and Georgians for Integrity, they were both signed by the same attorney. Now, I'm going to show you what the coincidence is why it's very interesting. The same attorney signed the same paperwork. Now, a brand new out-of-state dark money group launched an attack on Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama over the past week and has already invested $320,000 in negative television advertising alone during some of the weekend's largest SEC football matches, right? Matchups. The group ran a shock-style message that is now being pushed to Alabama voters more aggressively than any political campaign could afford to spend on television at the point in 2026 election cycle. According to the business filings, Alabama Patient First was formed in Delaware on December 11th. The state is known for its Teflon business privacy laws. It's very hard to get information on a Delaware corporation. Are not required to publicly list their ownership or members, making it ideal vehicle for dark money. Using a paid-for by Alabama Patients First disclaimer, the group aired television advertisement, launched a website, and directed SMS marketing campaigns directly to voters. They are making a killing off you. No, Blue Cross Blue Shield. No, that's Blue Cross. BS, the ads say. Let's see. The group also spent $102,000 in Birmingham, Huntsville, Dothan media markets going after Blue Cross Blue Shield. By comparison, in the Montgomery media market, the group spent $211,000. So, what does all this mean? I am getting there to what all this means, I promise. Why do you think this has maybe a coincidence to Jackson Healthcare, Rick Jackson? Why do you think it's possible that Georgians for Integrity and this group is the same, and Rick Jackson's responsible for both? Why do you think that? Because we're just tying some things together. Remember, the same group, okay, that signed the documentation for Georgians for Truth, the Delaware Corporation, also signed the documentation for Alabama Patient First. Now, Alabama Patient First TV ad spent its whole tab, either the professional fees required to deploy such an operation, likely to reach into the millions. The attack on Alabama began the same week that Jackson Hospital and Clinic initiated a high visibility litigation campaign against Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama. So you have Jackson Hospital and Clinic that's going bankrupt. They initiated a high visible litigation campaign against Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama, Jackson Hospital and its lender. Ready? Jackson Hospital and its lender, Atlanta-based Jackson Investment Group. Now, who is Atlanta-based Jackson Investment Group? Are on the clock for a December 31st bankruptcy court deadline to secure $100 million in public funding, which would help satisfy a debtor in possession agreement. Okay? Now, Jackson Healthcare is trying to get $100 million public funding, trying to help Jackson Hospital. Now, Jackson Hospital and Jackson Healthcare are not the same. But the Jackson Investment Group, that's Jackson Healthcare, are on the clock for December 31st bankruptcy court. They're trying to secure $100 million public funding, which would help satisfy what they call a debtor in possession agreement the two signed earlier this year. You see, Jackson Hospital owed, maybe they still do, Jackson Healthcare so much money, they signed what's called a debtor in possession agreement. Yeah. So here you go. Yellowhammer, you can go to Yellowhammer and read all this. You can look all this up. News requested information from officials at Jackson Investment Group, Jackson Healthcare, and Jackson Hospital to confirm or deny connection between the hospital's lending relationship and the creation of Alabama Patients First. So, look, the hospital aggressively is litigating and suing Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama. At the same exact time, these ads took off from this dark group, right? Alabama Patient First. Can't make this up. At the time of publication, those requests were unanswered. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama did respond to the negative ad blitz in a statement on Monday afternoon. The ads are an intentional misrepresentation of how we do business. Director of Corporate Communications for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama. Based on the timing of the ads, this is Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama. Based on the timing of the ads, we believe they are nothing more than an improper attempt by Jackson's, that's the hospital, investment lender, Jackson Healthcare, to inappropriately influence litigation. Now, these are the accusations being made. So here you go. This is Jackson Hospital blames Blue Cross Blue Shield for Alabama for collapse, but the bankruptcy records tell a different story. Jackson Hospital and Clinic, Inc. in Montgomery, which filed bankruptcy, files have described as carrying between $100 million to $500 million in liabilities. Filed a lawsuit last week against Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama, claiming they are the blame for the hospital's impending closure. Now, why do I keep going with this? I'll show you. What's Alabama got to do with it? Rural health care, rural hospitals, collapsing in hospitals. Jackson Healthcare has a lot of investment in their business, okay? I will get to that. So let's see what I have here. I think this might be the same one. Yes, it is. I have the same one here. Now, here is the business relationship. Here's the business relationship. Jackson Healthcare from Atlanta, Georgia, is a major national healthcare staffing and workforce solutions company. Its parent company is Jackson Investment Group. Jackson Hospital and Clinic is a standalone, nonprofit community hospital in Montgomery, Alabama. I think someone should not sit down and let Rick Jackson, because he gives these really bland, really bland, how we're going to fix rural healthcare answers. The main ties are commercial. Jackson Healthcare has been a vendor to Jackson Hospital for more than 15 years, supplying clinical staff. When Jackson Hospital filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy in February 2025, Jackson Healthcare was the largest unsecured creditor. $10 million for past staffing services. The hospital owed $10 million for past staffing services. The loan that kept the hospital open. To prevent immediate closure, Jackson Investment Group, this is Jackson Healthcare, stepped in and provided a debtor in possession loan. Okay? A debtor in possession loan. Initially $25 million, later referenced up to $35 million. Debtor in possession. So it's we hold your hospital. We're going into the bankruptcy together. We're going to look for $100 million. See, they're looking for $100 million. Stay with me on this, right? Jackson Hospital and its lenders, Atlanta-based Jackson Investment Group, right? They had a deadline. Now, I don't know what happened December 31st, 2025, but they had a deadline in bankruptcy court to secure $100 million in public funding, which would help satisfy the debtor in possession agreement the two signed. So they're looking for public funding. Yes, Jackson Healthcare is looking for public funding here because they have the debtor in possession loan. They're looking for $35 million. All right. This high interest loan, 14% base, can rise to 19% plus significant fees, allowed the hospital to continue operating while it reorganizes and seeks a buyer. So Jackson's bailing them out, but at a 14% loan, according to this, that could go up to 19%. The lender now sits at the front of the repayment line in bankruptcy court. So a debtor in possession note, Jackson Healthcare put themselves in the front of the line. So if this hospital is sold, they get their interest, they get their fees, and they get their repayment of their loan. Now, I don't know what has ended up happening there. Okay? Now, let's go back to, because see, Jackson Healthcare is involved in this here. That's where the connection is. It's not just that Kimberly Land, that's who I have on the screen, signed the documents for two Delaware corporations where the coincidence is. Now, we do not know right now if Alabama Patients First, the dark money there, attacking Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Alabama, we do not know if that's Jackson Healthcare in Alabama, but we know Jackson Healthcare is tied to Jackson Hospital in Montgomery. So we don't know that, right? But we know Kimberly Land signed the documents. And we don't know in Georgia if Georgians for Integrity, there's a investigation, but it seems another little smoke there, right? Might be a fire, that Georgians for Integrity have spent millions of dollars, right, attacking Burt Jones all through December and January. I haven't seen recent ads. Have you seen recent ads? But they laid the groundwork attacking Rick Jackson's #1 opponent. Just saying. Same attorney. Now, Kimberly Land is a Columbus, Ohio attorney at a firm called Bailey Cavalier LLC, where she practices primarily commercial real estate, finance, commercial transactions. Now, she is not an election lawyer by specialty, but she but she frequently serves as the registered agent or the attorney listed on incorporation file paperwork for numerous out-of-state political advocacy groups and dark money entities, nonprofits, or Delaware LLCs. These groups typically run anonymous campaign ads in other states while keeping donors hidden. Her name appears as primary and often only contact on public corporate documents. So here she is. This is the lady, right? Kimberly Land, who signed the documents registering Georgians for Integrity, signed the documents registering Alabama Patients First, all right? Here she is. So, I asked Grok this question, if it could give me like any connection, if it could show connection. So I asked connection to specific groups you mentioned. Georgians for Integrity. Land is an Ohio attorney, explicitly listed on the group's incorporated paperwork. She's the one that signed it. The Delaware registered nonprofit formed November 2025, all right, attacking Burt Jones in his 2026 gubernatorial campaign. News outlets have repeatedly noted her as the point of contact on filing, though she has not commented publicly, and the true funders remain undisclosed. Now, Alabama Patients First. Land is the attorney tied to paperwork for the Delaware LLC formed in December 2025. The group quickly launched expensive negative TV and digital ads against Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama. Recently reporting again identifies her as the attorney of record, did not return media request. So, okay. But we know Jackson Healthcare is Jackson Healthcare Investment Group, Montgomery, Alabama, Jackson Hospital. Debtor in possession, 14% loan. So Kimberly Land. So I looked her up, made sure I have the right person. Wait a minute, where am I at here? Oh, I have to go to this one. Hang tight there, Baba Louie. Hang tight, hang tight. There we go. Here's Georgians for Integrity. This is their website. Georgians for Integrity. Here it is, Georgians for Integrity, right? And here is Alabama Patient First. That's not what I'm looking for. So hang tight here. What number is that? Sorry about that. Well, I guess I don't have it. I thought I did, but I don't. Okay, so I don't have it. So I went to Kimberly Land, I went to Bailey Cavalier, and there's a phone number. There's a phone number right there on the screen, and I didn't download that picture. So I called the direct line for Kimberly Land. I called her direct line, the person, Bailey Cavalier, and I told her who I said who I am. I said, I identified myself. Let me get that correct. I identified myself, and I said, we're on the record, and I like to know if you are the you did sign the documents. I said you did sign the documents. We have information that you signed the documents to incorporate Georgians for Integrity. You signed the documents to incorporate Alabama Patients First. I would like to know if you can confirm you are the registered agent for both of those on the Delaware Corporation. She said, quote, "No comment due to attorney-client privilege," and hung up. She did not deny anything. Now, one more time. Hello, how are you? How's Ohio? Did not do that. Hello, my name is BKP, and I'm with BKP Politics, and I'm calling today to ask you a couple questions on the record. My question first: you are the attorney of record that signed the documents for the Delaware Corporation, Georgians for Truth, Delaware Corporation, Alabama Patients First. I'd like to know if you can confirm that you are the registered agent for both of those Delaware corporations. She said, no comment due to attorney-client privilege, and hung up. So, now, as you know, Rick Jackson, they said they'd never heard of Kimberly Land. Never heard of her. Nope. Don't know who you're talking about, man. Can't help you. So, never heard of her. I think the Jackson campaign needs to, if it's found that, that this is all just smoke and there's nothing here at all, but if it's true that Jackson and his campaign, Rick Jackson and his campaign, if somehow from plausible deniability they have any connection to Georgians for Truth, that's pretty bad. Just saying. What do I have here on the screen now? So right here, let me close with this. Rick Jackson is trying to run against Keisha Lance Bottoms. They're trying to run against Keisha Lance Bottoms right now. And not Jeff Duncan. So let me show you this right here. This is DC Drano. Now, how many of you out there know DC Drano? Let me see something here, okay? And they can't stay. They cannot stand. It bothers them to no end that I know how it works. Okay, Jackson did not come to Hall GOP Saturday, despite him being in town for breakfast. Ooh, I got to follow that one up. Ooh, doggies. That's what Jed Clampett would say at a time like this. Wee doggies. I'm sorry. Shouldn't do that. So let's do this really quickly. DC Drano. DC Drano has 2.4 million followers, okay? DC Drano has his name is Rogan O'Hanley. Is that his name? Rogan O'Hanley, DC Drano. He's a lawyer, America First. Okay. Now, we've asked this question, and I asked him this question. I've asked this question. I've asked him in the past, he doesn't answer these, okay? Now, what we understand, this is what I've been told. And if DC Drano contacts me and says, it's not true, I will send you a statement saying it never happened and whatever, then I will report that. But what my understanding is he will retweet or repost or re-X, what they call it. We still call it retweet. That he'll hit retweet on your post because he has 2.4 million followers for a certain amount of money. So if you got a post and you want it to reach 2.4 million followers that he has for X amount of money, okay, he'll just hit repost. But for an upcharge, he will write something and then post it. And he writes here, this is Jackson, this isn't Minnesota. Here in Georgia, we're going to respect the police and enforce the law. All right? And DC Drano writes, finally, someone telling the raw truth in Georgia again. Don't violently resist law enforcement and you might get killed. It's obvious, but politicians are too afraid to say it. Rick Jackson of Georgia tells it like it is. Wow, you going to tell me DC Drano knows that Rick Jackson of Georgia tells it like it is? Successful businessmen who aren't career politicians tend to be straight shooters. Wow, that was written, boom, and then the repost. So how much did Rick Jackson pay DC Drano, if he did, all right, to repost this? I mean, like I said, they can't stand that I know how it works. So the other thing with the Jackson campaign that concerns me, remember this morning, right, I showed you, let's see what I have here. Here is the poll. They're all, this is the polling numbers. Here is the polling numbers. This is an outfit that's called Georgia Poll. Let's see. Interactive polls. The governor's race. All right. As you can see, they're showing the Senate, John Ossoff, 51%, and Mike Collins, 44%, John Ossoff, 52%, Buddy Carter, 43%. And then governor, this is the one, governor's race. Keisha Lance Bottoms, 49%, Rick Jackson, 43%, right? Keisha Lance Bottoms, 46%, Brad Raffensperger, 44%. Interesting. Now, I want to show you something because I want you to just remember Buddy Carter, and this is the only tie. This is the only tie that I see here with that I just want to say. This guy works for a lot of different campaigns. Remember, let me get this up here. I can get it up here. There we go. Get it on the screen. Remember the Senate campaign. Buddy Carter came out and he went after Mike Collins and he put out a new ad and Buddy Carter unloaded on rival U.S. Representative Mike Collins over congressional ethics probe into allegations of misused taxpayer funds. Collins is under federal investigation for misusing taxpayer funds to benefit himself and his cronies. And we showed you this morning this is the crony Brandon Phillips. Now, my concern is Brandon Phillips, right, under investigation. Here is the ethics complaint we showed you in an earlier segment. If you want the entire segment, go to our Senate review segment, and you will find this complete ethics violation complaint on Brandon Phillips. Now, my concern is at the Jackson, this is after, at the Jackson kickoff, I've always called Brandon Phillips dirty deeds, maybe done not so dirt cheap, but this is Rick Jackson at his campaign kickoff, and who shows up? Brandon Phillips. This is Brandon Phillips at Rick Jackson's campaign kickoff. Now, when he got there, they met him and they took him in a back room. They took Brandon Phillips into a back room, all right? He was never in the crowd. They took him in a back room to a set of offices, and after it was over, you could barely see it, but in this picture, in the front with all of Brandon, there is Shane Jackson, and with all of Rick Jackson's campaign staff and people up front, Brandon Phillips was right in the mix with them. Right in the mix with them, okay? So, shall I do it? Yes, don't forget, one of these guys could end up being the nominee for the Republican Party, and I find it quite interesting. They could be running against, we keep talking about Keisha Lance.
I'm a man of faith and a proud Democrat because I listened to Georgians and found my heart. As governor, I'll tackle the affordability crisis, the healthcare crisis, and the Donald Trump crisis. I'm the only Democrat who can do it. I'm a man of faith and a proud Democrat because I listened to Georgians and found my heart. As governor, I'll tackle the affordability crisis, the healthcare crisis, and the Donald Trump crisis. I'm the only Democrat who can do it.
All right, folks. One of those two candidates right there, Rick Jackson or Burt Jones. Go check out our segment we did on Unadilla with all the governor's candidates at Unadilla side by side, and one of these candidates will be the nominee. And what if they have to take on Jeff Duncan? So I hope it didn't bore you, but always enjoy a good investigation. Georgians for integrity. Now, I think I have to be careful here. You know, attorneys are always standing by. I think Georgia for integrities, I think it's possibly Rick Jackson. I really do. I think it is. Just saying. If you go to this QR code right here and you scan this, you will go straight to our Substack. This will take you straight to Vora at BKP, our Substack. Right there. It'll take you right there. So, hey, look. Tomorrow, Lieutenant Governor. And remember, tomorrow, Lieutenant Governor, And remember Greg Dolezal and the bunny ears. Don't forget about that. We're working on a lieutenant governor. We're working on state election. No. Education, state school superintendent. If you want to share anything with me, I had a great call out of the first district. If you want to share anything with me on any of these candidates, don't hesitate. Get in touch with me, okay? Make sure you get in touch with me on any of these races. Let's see, do I have anything else? All right, folks, we are going to leave now. We're going to leave now. We're going to take a brief break. We'll be back soon.
With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future.
The left is siding with illegals, attacking ICE, and fighting to let non-citizens vote. Republican Kelvin King is a graduate of the Air Force Academy, Air Force veteran, and conservative businessman. As Georgia's Secretary of State, Kelvin will put Americans first, root out corruption, clean up voter rolls, and restore confidence in our elections. The other candidates had their chance and failed. Republican Kelvin King for Secretary of State, leadership Georgia voters can trust.
Pro-Trump warrior Steve Gooch won't just cut property taxes in Georgia. He'll throw them straight in the wood chipper.
Senior citizens on fixed income shouldn't be forced from their homes. Neither should veterans who have served our country and fought for our freedoms. And neither should anyone else for that matter. Frankly, these crazy property taxes are un-American. I'll tear them to shreds. We'll make home ownership great again.
Steve Gooch for Lieutenant Governor. Toughest tax cutter Georgia's ever seen.
Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with U.S. Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call U.S. Asset Management today and put us to work for you.